My parents could not decide on a name for me. After 2 daughters, and with 7 sisters and only one brother between them, they were a little surprised to have a boy. Finally, they compromised and named me in honor of my grandfather, Joseph Boone Wills. His friends called him Joe, but the grandkids nicknamed him Dankin or just Dank. All of us adored him. Not only did he dote on you, praise you, make you feel 10 feet tall, he himself was larger than life, with a bear hug to make you wince, a booming voice, and stories that were wild and wonderful. Dank had been a real-life cowboy, leaving home in his teens for West Texas, running cattle, living on horseback, fighting bandits. He later became a prominent citizen of Fort Worth, where among many things he built roads, owned an ice business, and battled the railroads and other powerful corporations wanting to take over the town. I was particularly taken with Dankin's stories, because I only heard them in summertime. It was then my family would drive from our home in New York to Texas to see all our relatives. And being Dank's namesake, I felt we had a special bond. When I was in my late 20s, I moved to Austin, Texas, drove a school bus to pay the bills, and wrote fiction and nonfiction. I started to sell stories to Texas Monthly magazine, and I got them to bite on one about Dank, who died 10 years earlier. At first it was a labor of love, talking to relatives and researching his exploits. But then I found out something that shook me to my core. Dank had been in the Fort Worth Ku Klux Klan in the 1920s. Back then, I had thought of the Klan as a bunch of illiterate, backwoods rednecks. I wasn't aware it also included community leaders like my grandfather. But more importantly, I wasn't aware that my beloved Dank, who was always nice to me, who tipped so big and smiled so wide, who seemed all bark and no bite, had also, at least for a time, trafficked in terror and hate. I was angry and ashamed to write about it, but it was part of his story, and by extension, part of my story too. I was the grandson of a KKK member, and when I found out more about my ancestors, I was probably descended from slave owners. Like it or not, this was my legacy. Like the great William Faulkner wrote, "The past is never dead. It's not even past." I knew I needed to put this part of Dank's life in my article. My Texas aunts and uncles told me I shouldn't. They gave rationales and excuses for Dank's actions. I wasn't against trying to understand what he did, but I was dead set against hiding it, pretending he hadn't done it. In the end, the article never ran. Maybe Dank's racist past soured the magazine on him. I never got a good answer from the editor. I moved on to other writing, but what I'd learned about Dank didn't go away. I'd always been interested in civil rights and social justice. When I'd go to rallies or meetings, sometimes people would ask each other, "Why are you here?" Or you ask yourself the same question. And after working on that article, I'd think about Dank being in the Klan and my slave-owning ancestors and the anger and shame I felt about it. And then I had an answer why I was there. That feeling in the pit of my stomach. The sins of the fathers visited upon the children. Painful but purposeful because it spurred me on to make amends, to work for a more loving and just world, take a hard look at my own actions and assumptions, and humbly hope to make reparations for what had gone before. Dank was a flawed man, but a wise man too. I hope he would understand.